Soul is fire. From a slow simmer to a beautiful braise. Soul is sweet perfection and salty, spicy, saucy goodness. Soul is buttery smooth, melt in your mouth and oh my. Discover our soul in Jackson, Mississippi, the city with soul.
Welcome back. This season is already off to a great start. Enjoy the conversation. Let's go get some napkins dirty.
Let's get to it.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl, comedian Rita Brent.
Shokwe Antar Lumumba.
Hey, it's Timber Street.
Nick Wallace.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Dan's partner, Jeff Good.
This boy Boo Rossini.
Until next time, it's your host, Jay Taylor.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Saltine.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dirty Napkins. Today's guest has climbed the corporate ladder and has accumulated many successes along the way. Allow me to reintroduce you to Dr. LeMia Jenkins Thompson. I'm ready to dig into her story and this food, so tune in. Let's go get some napkins dirty. Let me make sure I get the doctor. Let's start this off right. I'm with Dr. LeMia Jenkins Thompson. How you feeling today? Well, on this windy day.
It's a little windy, but it's like a nice reprieve from the sun that we have in Jackson, so yeah. I'm enjoying it. How are you?
I'm good. It get a little toasty in Jackson, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm super excited that we have you on. We'll talk a lot about your path, your experience, all of that good stuff. But I just got a question I want to start with.
Let's do it.
What type of music do you like?
What type of music do I like? I like all genres of music. Actually, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm a classically trained violinist. So I started playing violin at the age of 6. My uncle gave me my first violin. He was an opera singer. And so I fell in love with music then. And so I love all genres of music. I actually listen to music based on my mood. So like when I'm getting ready for a big meeting, you know, I want something that's gonna like amp me up. I just want to kind of hang out, chill, maybe some jazz, some R&B, but I like all genres. I'm country, I'm R&B, I'm pop. I was a Britney Spears fan in Sync back in the day.
That's the St. You said St. John, right?
St. Joe.
St. Joe. Let me make sure I got it correct. So what you listened to before the interview then?
Oh man, this is a good one because I actually had a good song. Okay, Can't Stop the Moonlight. I know that sounds really crazy. You know, it's a Leanne Rhymes. It's an oldie but goodie. When I worked at Caesars, they used to play this song all the time in the casino, and it just was powerful. So
I didn't know you worked at Caesars.
Yeah. Caesars Entertainment.
We'll have to talk about that too then. We'll have to talk about that. Well, let's start from way back in the beginning, right?
Okay,
so
time machine.
I like time machine. Let's go back. Let's take a trip back in the time machine.
Yes.
So you are originally from Jackson, Mississippi, correct?
Born and raised.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Zach. I'm going to be leading y'all through y'all's Saltine experience this evening.
All right.
Nice to meet you, Zach.
I see that we've got some menus and we've kind of been perusing a little bit. Do we have any questions about any cocktails? I've got over 30 draft beers. I've got at least a dozen signature cocktails that we make in-house.
Okay.
I've got several selections of wine, both red and white. So it really just depends on what y'all's flavor might be.
Okay.
What are we kind of thinking? Maybe a liquor drink or maybe a little cocktail or what?
I'm gonna take a cocktail
Yes,
personally.
sir. Yes, sir.
What would you recommend for a gentleman that likes tequila?
So a gentleman that likes tequila, I will say, now, are you one of those guys who thinks that just because it's in a martini glass, I can't drink it?
Oh, please.
That's what
I
like
will
to
take
hear.
whatever
Good
you
answer.
got.
Good answer.
Make
Well,
it
I've
look
got
nice.
the Eye of the Storm cocktail.
Okay.
It is made with our house tequila. It's got a little bit of orange juice, a little bit of fresh lime juice, a little bit of jalapeno syrup that we make in-house,
Okay.
strawberry and triple sec, shaken very ice cold and strained into a martini glass. A man that loves tequila will love it.
Really?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
a little on the edge about the jalapeno piece.
It's very light with all those other flavors. It really just blends perfectly
Let's do
together.
it. Let's do it.
Sounds
I'll try
good.
one. I'll try
What
one.
do you normally like to drink?
I'm a big tequila fan
Yes.
too, and I also like wine.
Yes.
But I like a little bit of spice.
Okay.
So whatever
I can do one and add just a little bit of extra jalapeno syrup in there for you.
Let's do
And
it.
it'd be really right. Sounds
Yeah,
good to me,
sounds
y'all.
good.
Hey, I'm gonna go whip these up.
Okay.
Y'all take a look at some food if y'all need anything at all. I am Zach. Y'all just let me know, okay?
All right, Zach,
Thank
see you in a
you,
bit.
Zach.
Okay. So we were talking about where you were from, right?
Yes.
You from Jackson. So walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, born and raised in Jackson. So lived here for I think 18 years. Started off, I went to Christ the King. It was a Catholic preschool.
Okay.
I went to Timberline Elementary for a little while.
No,
Yes.
I went to Timberline.
You did not.
I promise.
Are you serious?
Right hand to the man. Yep. I promise you, I went to Timberline
my
for like
God.
a year and a half. That's crazy.
Wow,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Well, we probably saw each other in the hallway.
That's maybe why you looked a little familiar.
Exactly.
To me. All right.
Exactly.
Hate to interrupt. Finish.
Oh,
with you.
so Timberline, and then St. Mary's for a year, Catholic school,
Okay.
and then I finished at St. Joe's. I was there 7th through 12th grade, and then went to Tougaloo. Shout out Tougaloo. Got my bachelor's there in PR.
Okay.
And then moved to DC, and the story goes on.
Goes from there. Well, let's start at Tougaloo then.
Let's
So
do it.
you get your bachelor's in PR, right?
Yes.
What was LeMia thinking at that point? What was the career trajectory?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
So Tougaloo at that time was graduating 50% of the doctors and lawyers, African-American doctors and lawyers from the state of Mississippi. And so it was very attractive to me. My father went to Tougaloo, so it made a ton of sense. They had a ton of summer science programs that I was involved in, and I was a super chemist at the time, loved biology, loved to learn about the body, and wanted to really help people coming from Mississippi. I think with all the health disparities that we have here, I wanted to be a part of that journey. And so got my undergrad in PR. My aunt was actually in PR, so that she introduced me to that field. And then I also got my minor in kind of like biology and the sciences to go to med school. But I was always attracted to PR. I wanted to tell a story. I thought that was going to be really important in my practice. And so got my bachelor's. I actually worked at Fox News here for a little while in production. I worked at the Godwin Group as an ad agency internship where I fell in love with like brand management, really understood the significance of that from a communication standpoint.
Wow.
But I would say after that, I went to DC and got into politics. I moved there to get my master's in public health. And so worked for Congressman Thompson for a little while and literally fell in love with policy. And in terms of being a physician and having that one-to-one connection, I felt like policy, I was able to shape populations and think about like what are the needs of our state, what are the needs of our country. And so I just felt like it was a more impactful way for me in terms of what I was good at. And so I changed my career path and started working in policy and communications in DC. So that's kind of what started my path.
That's a nice journey. That's a nice journey. Yeah. So when we talk about then growing up, your family dynamic, what would you say that was like?
Oh my God, I'm an only child. Yes.
Okay. You know what's funny? The stars are starting to align for me.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Oh, it's good. It's a good thing. Or net neutral. It's it's a neutral thing. We talked about that.
I like it. Big family, very loving dynamic. Very big personalities in my family. But the one thing I can say is that my parents are probably the most supportive people or have been in my life. They're my best friends. We relocated here a couple years ago to just be closer to them. And they really made me fearless. Like my family was big and exciting, and they made me fearless. Like I could tackle anything, I could do anything. And, you know, they pushed me to excel, but at the same time, you know, if I did have a stumble or a fall, they would say, you know, just pick yourself up, like you can do this. And what did you learn from that moment? And so I think that really helped me to pursue a lot in my career. I wasn't afraid. I was, you know, I'd done ballet, I was a violinist, I spoke at the church all the time. So it really helped me not be afraid to be around people. And, you know, with going to St. Joe's, a diverse school. So it wasn't Black and it wasn't just white. And so I think that was the other piece that gave me a lot of confidence. And my parents were always there to support me. At all of the violin recitals and cheerleading, you know, they were right there and I could always depend on them no matter what was going on.
Were you spoiled growing up?
Spoiled? What? You know,
I'm sure you know.
Definition.
Okay. What's your definition of spoiled?
Well, you know, I had everything I needed. You know, I had everything, and probably plus.
I was gonna say, and plus some maybe.
My grandparents really spoiled me.
Okay.
They were like, you know, they were. So my parents had to do a little bit of regulating, but my mom and dad will still say to this day, I'm probably a little spoiled.
Okay. I can believe it. I can believe. So your time in DC then, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of it's because it sounds like what you were doing here got you a lot into like brand management. It got you a lot into that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And what you talked about in DC, that seems like sort of a 180 almost.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Normal spice.
A drink
Whoa, whoa,
here.
A
whoa.
little extra spice.
Ooh.
And y'all's fresh oysters will be right out, okay?
Thank you so
thank you.
much. These look great.
Thank you. They
wait,
really
we gotta
do.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
All right.
What are we toasting to?
Dirty napkins.
To dirty. Great.
Yes.
How did I think of that?
Ooh.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was nervous about the jalapeno.
I know.
That's good.
That's what drew me to it. I was like, dang, should I get the same thing?
I like my sweet and spicy separated.
Oh.
You like yours together,
yeah.
it seems like.
But
Okay.
I would prefer, I mean, I'm a sweet and spicy person, but I like spice and then I like sweet. So I agree with you on that. But this kind of, to me, has that right marriage of the two.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
So you were telling me a little bit about the 180, right?
Yes.
So I asked about what you did here, PR.
Right.
That sounds like a lot of brand management strategy. And I'm going to ask you some more questions about that. But I'm really interested right now in ironing out the journey first, right?
Yeah.
So then you get to DC and you make that 180. How was that, right?
Yeah. I actually wasn't interested in going into politics. I was really super engaged from a civic standpoint. My mom, I remember the first day I turned 18, the first thing we did was, I'm terrified of bees, I'm just gonna say.
I don't think that's a bee.
Okay, it's not a bee.
No, I don't think it's a bee. I don't think it's a
better
bee.
now.
You're
All
good.
right.
I got you if a bee comes.
But the first, when I turned 18, my mom took me to register to vote. My grandfather was really involved in politics here. He had actually done some work for the congressman at one point. And he worked really closely with the Hinds County Supervisors Board as well. And so I knew how important politics was and civic engagement was. It just wasn't a field that I thought I would be necessarily interested in because I was so laser focused on health and medicine. And so getting to DC and, just being in the congressman's office, all the people that I knew that were familiar, but what really was exciting is the work that we were doing. At that point, we were transforming healthcare around the Affordable Care Act. There's such a need in Mississippi for representation and healthcare and education and all of the things that are the social determinants of health that make a great society. And so I was really excited to be a part of that, and I felt like I was learning a lot. I was meeting some amazing people. It was just a great experience, but also if you think about the communications aspect of being a comms person in a member of Congress's office, you're working directly with the member to think, what is the story that we want to tell? Who do we want to reach? What's the most effective way to reach that population? And you're shaping that person's brand. So you want to really work closely with them. We spent hours together on speech writing, on policy, and I learned so much from him in that experience, especially in terms of how to tell a story to a certain audience. I remember back in the day, I thought I was an expert, right? I was getting my master's in public health. I was at GW. You couldn't tell me a thing.
GW is
George Washington.
in DC.
Yep.
Okay, got you. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
bingo.
Yep. And so it was interesting because I was giving the congressman this amazing memo, right? And he was like, "Hey, most people read it on a second grade reading level, right?" And I had written this, really advanced policy kind of dissertation almost. And it really made me rethink how I communicate, right? So like, who is the audience? What am I trying to tell them? And he's very thoughtful in that way, but that lesson really, I think, impacted the way I communicate and the way I work with my teams and make decisions now. Just really thinking about what's the audience, what are you trying to communicate? And everybody has a short attention span, so how do you get to them in the right amount of time?
Okay. So now, with you saying that, it makes a lot of sense, and a lot of people don't know, and maybe I should have done a better job saying that up front. You are the Chief Communication Officer for Pinterest, right?
I am.
So when you talk about everything you just did in terms of like writing speeches and doing all of that stuff, that ties directly into that.
100%.
So how do you go from DC then to Chief Communications Officer of Pinterest?
A long journey.
Okay.
So I worked for several members of Congress in DC, and with each experience, I learned something different. I worked for members that were from all parts of the U.S., so a lot of that was really helpful in training me to think about, different populations, what are the needs there, what are the audiences here, what's interesting in those areas, and how do you make that relatable across the globe, right? And so I spent time in DC for about 6 or 7 years, worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign in the Midwest, and then worked for Caesars Entertainment, leading external affairs there. And then Walmart, head of media relations, handled probably one of the largest crises they had when there was a shooting in El Paso, Texas, which was an insane day for me in the company and the nation, I think. And then got the call to come work at Pinterest, and I think my job I don't look at it as one job. It's really multifaceted because I have, teams all over the globe. We have product, we have consumer, we have internal. We're telling the story of Pinterest, and we're inspiring people to create a life they love. And so one of the things I love about the job is just that. It's never the same every day. And we like to think of ourselves, I think, at the C level as enterprise leaders. So not just your function, but how does your function support the rest of the organization, and how do we think as a collective to move the organization forward? And so all of these different career paths I've had, in retail, in consumer, in gaming, and entertainment have really helped to shape my vision, and I think has really made me a diverse thinker, and probably a more strategic thinker, because I challenge things. I'm not always like, oh, you said this, like, I want to make sure that we're being strategic. So
that's that type A personality you talked to me about a little bit.
I am very, very type A.
Well, what I want to talk a little about Pinterest, so then we can get into a little more about you, right? So a lot of people might be like myself, and I don't know if Pinterest, a lot of guys use Pinterest. I personally don't.
We got to change that.
I will
change that like at our break.
oh wow, okay. We will do that then. Yes. But tell me a little bit about what is Pinterest, how does it work? Like, just give me a rundown of that. I'm curious.
Yeah, so our CEO, Ben Silverman, is a true visionary, and has really reshaped the way people think about the internet. And so we went from kind of a scrapbooking online platform to an inspiration to realization platform. And what I mean by that is when you get on Pinterest, you open the app, and there's all of this exploration that you can do. So whether you want to, improve your home, think about your outfit for the day, be inspired by a quote, or make a reel, there's something that you can use to do that. And so what we want you to do is, come to the platform, really understand what you want. The more you use the platform, the more personalized it becomes. Our algorithm is really tailored to you, and so it's a place that is about tailor, right?
Okay.
It's a place that you can escape the world and be inspired. And so we want you to come on the platform, be inspired, and then go and do and create, and then share it with us. Tell us what you did. Make an idea pin or a board, and really educate others on how you were inspired, and take feedback. So it's a really exciting app. I used it a ton when I was in DC because I was constantly needing to learn about different things, right? Whether it's policy or fashion or
so you can do all of that, right?
Yes,
like,
you can do.
It's text-based too, because I heard you say like motivational quotes and stuff like that. Okay,
yeah. So you can, we'll serve up, whatever it is that you're looking for. But the thing I love about it is you also get to discover new things. So while you're looking for that home improvement piece, you might find a recipe that's exciting because of something that you've looked at before. Or we want to continue to open up your mind to new possibilities. And so that's one thing I really love about the platform is the mission behind inspiration.
And I like the way you said it could be tailored for Taylor. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. That was cute. That was cute. So when I was looking you up, there was like a big push for diversity. And I don't know if it's like an initiative Pinterest had going on, but what does that mean to Pinterest diversity?
Yeah, so in the tech world, I think there's a big need for diversity. There's a big need for diversity in the executive suite, and there's a big need for diversity across the organizations. And so one thing that's been really important to us is having that diversity. There was a law that was passed in California that required you to have a person of color on your board, but we actually already had 2 wonderful, amazing Black women that were already on our board, and our board is very diverse. But also when you think about the product, we have inclusive beauty features that allow you to look for not only just skin tone, but hair patterns. So we really want to be inclusive. One of the things our CEO's wife said to him was, when we initially had the platform, is I don't see myself here. And that really resonates with me as a Black woman. And so we wanted to make sure that people see themselves on the platform. They understand when they come here that those recommendations are not just for one person, they're for, you know, a variety of people. And we really want to be intentional about that. The other thing that we're doing is thinking about hiring. 90% of our jobs do not require a college degree. And so that opens up a whole new world for people to have that experience in technology. And we're continuing to push the envelope. We have a wonderful leader, Nicole Barnes is our head of I&D, who's really thinking about that. Christine Deputy is our head of HR, and she's been really, really pushing that initiative to make sure that that we have a place for inspiration, but also equity. And so that's one of the things that as a female and a woman of color in that industry is really important to me, is to show people, like, you can do this. Like, this isn't some hidden away world. You can come and be in tech and really find your niche in the place where it makes you feel comfortable.
And it's good because people need to see it, right?
Exactly.
Like people eat with their eyes. Speaking of eating.
Hello. Hi, Megan.
These are our raw Gulf oysters.
Okay.
All right.
Two of the sauces that we have on here is our horseradish sauce, our house-made cocktail sauce, which is made with roasted red peppers, and our mignonette sauce, which is a vinegar-based sauce. And we also have lemons on the platter. And all of this kind of comes into play to help solidify the flavor within the oyster. And we brought you hot sauce.
All right, thank you.
Because we're in the South, duh.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Thank you.
All right.
That looks good.
Yeah, it does. So I think it was interesting to kind of get on the topic of diversity.
Yeah.
And something you said that I was like, oh, I'm glad she said this. My sisters, they give me the hardest time when I say, oh, you know, she's a woman of color. And my one sister, she's like, you mean Black woman? And I'm like, okay, all right, let me make sure I get that correct. So how has your journey been then as a Black woman to become, when you said something in passing also, being in the C-suite, right? A lot of people may not know what that means, and being a executive, right? But what is that like, right? Being a Black woman as an executive of one of the largest companies in the world?
Well, I think representation matters. Diversity of thought, diversity of experience is so important because you're making critical business decisions that impact customers of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different experiences. And so I think the thing that I have had to get used to sometimes is being the only, right? In a lot of those rooms where it's either male dominated or white male dominated, is being the only. And not being afraid, right? Like not being afraid to speak my opinion, to talk about my experiences and to be relatable, I think. And a lot of times we come into these spaces and we're not confident. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that if you're in that room.
Why is that though? And I hate to, I really don't like to cut my guests off.
No.
But like when you say that, I'm just curious, why is that? Why would you not be confident?
I think people underestimate themselves sometimes. And when you're the minority, it's hard to feel like, what if they don't like me? What if my voice doesn't mean anything? What if they don't understand my experience? But if you're not in that room telling your story and helping people understand how you got there and what makes sense in your life, we'll never get to a place where people feel that it's equitable. And so I think a lot of it, and I think some of it's training, right? You know, what have you been taught your whole life? Like you've been taught like, oh, I'm Black, or I'm, a person of color, so I'm inferior. So really getting out the word that, like, if you're there, you're meant to be there, and that diversity is really important. And so for me, I mean, my mantra is like, I might be the first, but I'm never going to be the only. I don't want to be the only, and I don't want to be the last.
And because of you, you won't be the last.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's a beautiful thing, right? So do you like oysters?
I do. These are big. These are
big
big oysters.
They're
like
huge.
I feel like sometimes they try to skimp you on oysters.
Yeah,
These are like
not here, I
nice
guess.
size.
Not here, I guess. Well, so I like the fact, right, that you being a Black woman working for Pinterest, being the chief communications officer, right? Have you had on your journey to this, right, on your path to becoming that, Have you dealt with any adversity? Have you dealt with any setbacks? And talk to me about that.
Absolutely. I think there have been a lot of setbacks and a lot of times when I wasn't perfect, right? But I think that's part of the journey. Some of my biggest learnings have come from those experiences and those opportunities. Luckily, I've really been blessed, frankly, with great management teams that understand me as a person and what I bring to the equation. But yeah, there's definitely times when, you know, I've been in rooms where people underestimate me, right? They may not know my background or they may not know what experiences I bring. And I think, you know, the thing I like to do is just, you know, be personable, educate people, let them be relatable. Because I think sometimes people have a guard up that like, I have to be this aggressive, you know, whatever. But it's like, you know, how do you relate? How do you meet people where they are so that you can bring them along on the journey so that they're not like, oh, I got to stay away from her. But you want to make them kind of lean in. And so a lot of times when I'm in those situations, I want people to lean in. Like, ask me a question. Let me tell you about this experience. And a lot of times just one thing that you can say that's relatable that you have in common with people will completely change the dynamic of a room. That doesn't always work. Yeah. But I will say that a lot of times if you just meet people where they are, that helps bring you along. I think as a Black woman, a person of color, I have to constantly tell myself, like, I'm amazing, I'm awesome. And those affirmations are important, but they're important for my friends and my family. I want to do a good job, but I do think that, you know, we have to have a network that really supports you, especially in these huge corporations where you may be the only person and you may not have someone that you can talk to. At every level of your career, you need a different type of support, right? Like when I started off in my career, I was learning my craft, and now I feel like I know my craft, right? But there are different aspects that I want to stretch and learn and grow in. And so I think you really have to be intentional at every step in your career.
What drives you?
Oh, man.
And I want to know internally what drives you, right? Like everybody says, oh, I'm driven by, you know, I want to see people successful. And I'm not saying that may not be your answer, but, you know, what drives you?
Man, you know, I think it's my family. I think it's the need to, you know, I'm from Mississippi, right? And like when I meet people all over the world, they're like, oh, you're from Mississippi? You know, I've always wanted to defy that narrative that, you know, people in the South can't excel, can't do anything. And, you know, I feel like my role is to open those doors for other people who feel like they can't or they couldn't. I spend a lot of time mentoring young women, especially because I really believe that, you know, they want to see someone that's done it before, because it's really hard to talk to someone and ask them for advice and they've never done what you've done before. And so I want to be that person that people can come to. But, you know, success drives me. You know, I come from a family that has high expectations. And I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference in the world. I want the world to be a better place when I'm no longer here. And so I try to be really intentional about that.
That's nice. And you say you mentor younger women and just women. That brings me to something interesting. I want to know if you agree with this. Kendrick Lamar just put out an album, right? Called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And there's a song on there where he said, let's keep it real. The truth is women can't get along, right? Right? He's like, why don't R&B women feature on each other's songs? That's the rap line he made. Do you agree with that? Do you think women have a problem getting along?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have a problem getting along sometimes. And I think, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because when women are angry or they show emotion, they're hard to get along with. You know, she's aggressive, she's angry, you know. But when men argue, you know, he's just expressing himself. He's passionate. And so I really think that some of these labels, I feel strongly about this one, some of these labels really hurt women, because when we're strong, when we stand up, when we have an opinion, it's often viewed as a negative trait versus
hey friends.
Hello.
Hey. Sorry to interrupt you.
Nope.
I see we're enjoying those raw oysters.
Yep, of course.
Right? And if you put them on a cracker, that helps with the solidity. But here's the good stuff. Most people don't enjoy raw oysters, but wood-fired oysters straight out of our oven are going to make your day. Guys, this is what we call a sampler at Saltine. We have so many wood-fired specialties coming out. Closer to you, LeMia, you'll have our Rockefeller. That's spinach and cheese awesomeness for your taste buds.
I like it.
Right here we have a Bama barbecue. It's like a white sauce, kind of like a white mustard. It wasn't my favorite, but after a few glasses of wine, it quickly became my favorite. Lafitte, it's a specialty. People who don't usually like oysters, they like the Lafitte because it has bacon, cheese.
I was just about to ask you.
It's like a meal on an oyster, okay? You'll be full just from that. Guys, enjoy those, because we have at least 3 more wood-fired oysters coming out of the oven just for you, okay?
I'm gonna try them because of what you told me.
I know,
You're
literally.
awesome, guys. But y'all can just get that fork. You don't need a
Yep.
cracker. Just dig right into
Yep.
that awesomeness.
I'll try one of
each
these
for you guys. All right.
immediately.
Let's try it. Thank you.
Well, LeMia, I'm gonna be selfish. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna
I
try this
know.
while you finish your point, because I thought you were going somewhere really nice with that. And just to kind of tee it back up for you, you were talking a little bit about just the dynamic of women being women being perceived one way when they have arguments and confrontation, and guys being perceived as, oh, boys will be boys when they have their arguments and confrontation.
Yeah, I don't think that there are any more arguments between women in the workforce than men, frankly, but I think it's the way it's perceived. When a woman has a strong opinion, sometimes it's like, oh, she's aggressive or she's, you know, pushy. But for men, it's, you know, oh, he's a go-getter, you know, he's aggressive, he's trying to get it done. And I think in formal corporate settings, a lot of times that is seen as a not for women, where it will often advance a man's career. And so as a woman in that space, you know, I do think we have to be more conscious because of those labels, because of how people have perceived us for so long. And because I think for a long time, women were really marginalized. We were taught to be in a corner, to be quiet, be nice, be polite, but the world is really changing, and I think our opinions are so important because we have such a diversity of thought. We see the world differently. We're mothers, right? We're wives, we're friends. There's so much that I think we bring to the table from a diversity perspective that's so important, because I think we really do see big picture. And so I really disagree with the notion that women are more aggressive or more catty in the workforce. I just think that those are the narratives and characterizations that have been put on us for, you know, probably since almost the beginning of time.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thought about this one.
Yeah, I can tell. I was like, man, you knocked that one out the park. Yeah. So Yeah. And I just want to know, just curious, what gets under LeMia's skin? And I guess even a better way to ask that question is, what's something that really pisses you off?
That's a good question. I'm finished chewing my oyster.
No, take your time. I'm in no hurry.
What gets under my skin? I am such an overachiever.
Okay.
Sometimes lack of effort, right? Like, I believe you're going to do something, do it to the fullest extent. And so I think sometimes when people, you know, when there's a lack of effort or people don't take advantage of an opportunity, that really disappoints me, because there's so few opportunities in life, and a lot of times you have to make your own opportunities. So if you're not, you know, executing to the fullest extent, that really frustrates me. And I'm very type A, so when the house is dirty, that really frustrates me.
But you know, what do you define as a dirty house, though? You know, like, are you the I have to have a clean kitchen before I go to bed? Like, no, not a wine glass can't be in the sink. Yeah. You're on that.
Oh yeah. Now I'm not gonna say that there
Bless
are
your
not
husband
nights
is all I'm gonna say, brother. I feel your pain, my man.
I'm not gonna say that there's never a wine glass in the sink, but I will say that, you know, I want the bed made. I want, you know, everything in its place before I go to bed. I'm the type of person that I travel a ton for work. I can't sleep if my bag is still packed. So I have to unpack. I don't care if it's midnight or 2 a.m. Like, I have to at least get everything out of the suitcase and try to put it in some kind of order before the next day.
Yeah, that's a lot. But hey, I mean, to each its own. Well, and I'm glad you told me that. Because personally speaking, like, I'm the complete opposite, right? Like, I'm not a junky person by any means, but like, wine glasses, forks in this thing, it's all good.
Oh, it drives me nuts. That dishwasher commercial, I don't know which one it is. When they say we do it every night, I am such a dishwasher, I want everything in the dishwasher. I want to run it. Oh yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Okay. Well, you mentioned you travel a lot for work, right?
I travel a lot.
I'm sure that comes with a lot of sacrifice, right? And even just an easier way to kind of put that, the job probably comes with quite a bit of sacrifice.
Yeah.
What's one of the biggest sacrifices you would say you've made?
My time. I give my all to whatever it is that I'm doing. And so, with work, I'm in it. I'm up in the morning, I'm reading emails, I'm sending emails, I'm reading the news to know which way the markets are turning. And I would say that my friends and family probably get less time with me because I'm so involved in the work, and I just throw myself into the work and my team. And so I think if any sacrifice that I've made, it's definitely with my friends and my family, because my work is my friend and my work is my family.
Wow.
And I want to do a great job. And so I think sometimes work is all about setting boundaries.
But does that get lonely?
It has before. I think now I'm learning how to prioritize. And I think people always ask me about balance. I don't know that there's any such thing as balance, because you're going to have to give to different parts of your life at different times, right? Like, I lead a huge team, and I'm an enterprise leader at a Fortune 500 company. So my responsibilities are different. The buck stops with me. So there's no one, I can't say, well, Taylor didn't tell me, right?
Yeah.
Like, the CEO's going to look at me and say, what happened? It's on me. At other parts of my career, the buck didn't necessarily stop with me. So I had time to prioritize, social life more. And, I'm in junior league and things like that. I'm a sorority, I'm in Delta. So
what's junior league?
Junior League? You don't know about Junior League?
Never heard of it. Excuse me here.
Junior League is an amazing organization of women that is national.
Okay.
That really support their local cities, their local states, through philanthropic activity and mentorship and volunteerism. And so I'm a part of the Jackson Junior League here. And it's an amazing experience, but it really connects you with other women. It's a sisterhood, but we're also doing a lot of good for the city. And I love my city. I'm on the Redevelopment Authority board. So I really believe in economic development and giving back to the place that birthed me, right?
Okay.
And so yeah, like earlier in my career, I had more time for those types of activities. But now, I'm much more focused on my career, and I'm sure, if I ever have a family, that'll be a different focus. So I think it's about prioritizing what's most important. And one of the things that one of my coaches taught me to do is write down what are the 5 things you have to get done today, and then take 2 off. And that is really what you should prioritize for the day. And I literally do that every day, just about. Probably not as much on the weekends, but during the week, I'm like, what are the 3 things I need to get done today that will make me feel whole at the end of the day? And sometimes they're all work related. Sometimes they're personal. Sometimes I just need to go to the doctor, right? Like, you just have to prioritize.
Take care of you.
Yeah, take care of you. And because when you can't show up and you're tired, or you're frustrated, or you're busy, your team or your company is not getting the full you. The person, right, is not getting the full you. So I really believe that I have to recharge my battery just as much.
Oh, wow. How do you deal? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, what do we feel about those oysters there?
Oh, they're good.
All right.
Good deal.
Almost.
Look at that, you're doing a great job, okay? And I'm not taking sides on who's awesome and who's not. But we got a brunch oyster. That's gonna be just like a brunch meal. Bacon, cheese, as well as bacon and eggs on the oyster. We got a citrus butter, really crisp, light, just zest of lemon and lime on top of oyster, and a more of a Cajun New Orleans style oyster is our new oyster that we're added to all of our flavors, the saltine sauce. Chef Mike created that on his own, just working up at the oyster bar. Something awesome for you guys to taste. All right, and we're gonna put those little nibbles down, and we have the best appetizer sampler for you guys to enjoy in just a moment, okay? And we have some skinny deep margaritas on the way.
All right, perfect. Can you give me an additional saucer, please?
We got you.
Thank you so much. So, I forgot what we were talking about, actually. I apologize.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, is he going to pick up? Well, we were talking a lot of prioritization.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for paying attention. But you know what that is? You're an interviewer.
Oh, this is true. My job,
I couldn't sleep last night. I was like, what am I going to do if she starts interviewing me? I'm joking.
I'm not going to do you like that. Not this time.
All right. I appreciate it. But no, so thanks for that answer.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with the pressure, right, of being who you are, of what you've made it through so far, or made it to, is what I meant to say?
I think, different ways. I'm religious, so I take a lot to the Lord. I pray. Thank you so much. Because I think prayer and meditation are really important. I have a great network of other executive women that I lean on and ask advice. I think that's the thing. A lot of times when people become leaders, they're like, I have to have all the answers. And one of the things I feel is I need to hire really great people that know more than I do, and I can help, guide, direct, give them what they need to execute. But I really have a strong group of women executives that I lean on. I lean on my family and my friends. I have great friends I've known my whole life. I try to work out. That's not always,
Fair enough.
And then I travel, but I think you have to have an outlet. We did an execution a couple weeks ago. I think he's bringing us in. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I saw the margarita out of the corner. I thought you were Zach over there for a second.
Oh no, I'm just a little service.
All good. All
so
good.
much.
Thank you. I'm listening to you.
So yeah, you were asking me about how do I balance? How do I?
Yeah.
I think that's important. And a lot of times I think people think that you go into these jobs and there's no outlet. But you have to have an outlet. I was talking about the Pinterest execution a couple weeks ago. So I was in New York for this thing called Pinterest Havens, a whole mood. Okay.
Okay.
And so
it's called what now?
Pinterest Havens.
Okay.
And the title was A Whole Mood.
A whole mood.
A whole mood. So we
Okay.
had all of these different rooms that take you through the expressions, like emotions. So we had a positive room, we had a happy room, we had a sad room, we had an anger room. It was great. Next time you'll have to visit us. But it was really about the importance of emotions. And like, you can't be happy all the time. You can't be positive all the time. But like, how do you get through that, right? Like, if you're sad, what is it that you need to do? You might want to cry. You might want to just sit and be in your feelings for a while. But I think the thing I loved about it was for Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think mental health is so important to really be able to focus on you and your mental health. And that's one of the things that will make you a great person or an angry person or a sad person all the time, is you're not relieving yourself of those emotions. And so that's important to me.
Have you had any challenges with your own personal mental health?
I think everybody does, right? Like, we all have times when there are times when I'm definitely overwhelmed. I would say for the last year or so, with coming in and out of the pandemic, I'm like, am I going to get to meet with my team? Am I going to get to spend time with my family? My parents are older, so, we were very careful around them. And I don't think mental health is necessarily something that's a one facet thing, right? Like, you may not have been diagnosed with something, but everyone has challenges with their mental health, whether they know it or not. And so it's important to be able to check in with yourself at those times. And like, there are times when I have to tell myself, like, I need a vacation. Like, I am too high strung. I feel really stressed out. I just need to take some time away. And I feel like that not only helps me, but it helps my team. It helps my peers, the people I have to deal with. So I'm very conscious of that. Because it's so important to me, and I don't think people should be ashamed to say, like, I need a break or I need time for myself, because if you don't take that time, then that's how a lot of people have unfortunate endings, because they're not being aware of that and giving themselves that time to really express themselves and to uncover what it is that's upsetting them or maybe causing them that consternation that they're experiencing.
So how do you relax then?
Oh, I love to travel.
Okay.
Travel is
tell me
number
about
one.
that.
I love beaches. So I love beaches. I know.
It's so overrated.
No.
Beaches are so overrated.
Put me in front
But
of
that's my
some
personal
water.
opinion. That's my personal
Put me in front of
opinion.
some water, I'm telling you.
So-
Beaches are the thing. So I love to travel. I'm a wine connoisseur. So I love to taste wine. I like to, experience new wines, new vineyards, etc. I read a lot. I just think reading is so important, especially in my job, my career, my world. Just understanding what's on top of people's minds, like what people are doing, is important to me. And I actually like to sleep. Just get some good rest. A lot of times I don't get to rest as much as I want to, so I would say resting is definitely one. I'm trying to get into yoga. It's kind of, yeah, I do like it. It's just, if I can choose between that or like a vacation or sleep, it's kind of, I used to be able to push myself more, so I'm trying to get back into working out. Yeah.
I had to take a brief pause there because I got like a million questions running through my mind. I really do. But I guess I just want to ask you, what has taken a toll on you through all of this?
Yeah. I think the pandemic, for sure. I started my job during the middle of the pandemic, so it was June of 2022 or 2020. And I just, I'm used to meeting my team, I'm used to meeting my peers and the people I'm going to be working with, experiencing the space that I'm going to be working in. And, there were so many unknowns. When we were going to have to move, when we were going to be seeing each other in person. And so I think the biggest thing that took a toll on me was just the pandemic and the unknowns. Because I'm type A, I want to know.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to really set expectations for my team. And it's hard to set expectations when you don't know when the company is going to open up, you don't know when the world is going to open up, and you really don't know what's ahead. And so I would say that was probably one of my biggest struggles, and also just staffing. I think everybody is going through kind of a mode of recruiting and trying to bring in talent. And a lot of times when we don't have staff, you have to get in and get dirty. You have to do your own thing. And I think that's one thing people don't always realize about leaders is like, if you're not there, we still have to perform. We have to still produce. So I think that really does take a toll on you. And then I just think having the weight of all that's happening in the world.
Soul is history that moves you, saying, remember this day. Soul is the spirit inside each of us that never gives up. Soul is a voice that says, listen to me. Discover our history, our spirit, our soul in Jackson, Mississippi, the city with soul.
So this is for me and the entire team here at Dirty Napkins.
Thank you. It's my favorite color too.
We knew that.
Ooh, awesome. Thank you. Yes, I love my t-shirt.
Thank you, and congratulations on everything y'all are doing. I only hear great things about this show, so I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Jim.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I will definitely rock it.
What is a chief communications officer?
There was a meme, and I'm not going to date myself by saying when it came out, but there was one that was like, what do you do? And there's like this club, and there's like a PR person, and then there's this like really serious business meeting that's happening, and there's like all these different memes. And I think, no day in my job is the same. I think the biggest job of the chief communications officer, think about, the audience, the employees. Thank you. Who we're messaging to in terms of a company, what's the strategy for reaching out, and what do we want to say as a company? How do we want to engage our customers? How do we want to engage employees? And so, my team is, global, so we're thinking about that message all over the world, but we're thinking about the product, we're thinking about the consumer, the marketing aspect, the internal communications. What are we telling employees? I think the biggest lesson from the pandemic is just that always on communication, doubling down on our strategy, telling them what we're doing, helping them get through, kind of this really rough time. And so when I think about a chief communications officer, we touch so many areas of the business, and I really do feel like you have to almost be an expert in all those facets. So you become kind of a generalist in all things. And so, I think communications is such a key component to business and strategy and how we're seeing the world. And one of the things that I like to provide to, my company is, hey, here's the external perspective. Here's what other people are doing, and where do we want to fit into that? And how do we differentiate ourselves, which I think is the most important thing. And so trying to always stay ahead of the curve, reading the news, what's popular, what's happening, how do we contact that, that zeitgeist that people want to be involved in, like that momentum. And then really just educating our customers and bringing them to the platform and helping them understand, what we're here to do in the service that we provide. Thank you.
How does all of this weigh on your relationship?
My husband is so supportive. I think, a lot of people, marry for different reasons. And my husband, I can say, is my best friend. Like, we talk about everything. He's usually like here with me during these interviews and things like that. And I think he is really like the rock for me. When things are crazy, I can always depend on him and my baby Coco, my Maltipoo, to support me. And when things aren't great, when I'm having a bad day, when I'm sad, we do these 360 kind of like, how are you doing? Like, what is your company thinking? What are your employees thinking? How do you feel about yourself? And one of the things that my employees said is I don't take my frustrations out on them. And I definitely do with my husband, right? Like, if I'm frustrated at work, I'm like, this happened and I don't understand, you know, and so it's good to have somebody that can kind of ground you and help you, and he understands business. So, you know, I bounce ideas off of him all the time. And so it's hard because so much is, our days are apart, right? Like even though we're in the same house, like he's on calls, I'm on calls. So like, sometimes it's just like, what do you want for lunch, you know? But I think it's really important, I think in relationships, to make the time. So that's the thing that I try.
Because you said you have issues with balance sometimes, so.
Well, the best thing about it is when I'm traveling, we talk all the time. So even if he's not with me, he's my first call in the morning, my last call at night, and even during the day, I'm just kind of like, hey, this happened. Like, and I think opening the lines of communication, and I think being friends is really important, because he's not just my husband, but that's my friend. It's my counselor, my advisor. And so I think that's really important and healthy for a relationship. And every night, you know, we either, you know, watch TV, watch a movie, have a glass of wine, I'll cook. Sometimes he's my sous chef. And I think that's a good bonding moment. Yeah, you know, like it's fun because, you know, so much of our days are busy. So it's good to have that kind of close time at the end.
You still love marketing?
I do. And I think a lot of my world is marketing. So if you think about communications, it's the brand, it's bringing consumers in, it's telling the story. And so I think a lot of times people put communications people just in a box of comms, but we work really, really closely with the marketing team. We think about the creative, we think about the message that we want to tell. We spend a lot of time looking at research that the marketing team produces, and that really informs our messaging. So if we want to put out a message and it's not landing, then we go to say, like, what's that research telling us? What's the sentiment? One of the interesting things is when events happen in the world, marketing and communications team have to talk because they don't want to put out something that seems tone deaf. So if you think about when these things happen in the world, good or bad, you don't want to say like, you know, there's a shooting one day and then like, oh, we got this great product. You know what I mean,
question,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
you want to make sure you're balancing your tone.
How do you, that's great. I'm just out of curiosity, right?
Yeah.
So something negative happens, right? And we won't use any type of fake scenario, but what do you and your team do? Do you just come together and say, all right, let's put our minds together. What do we want the message to be? How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's the thing that I was drawn to in communications is crisis. So I say that I love crisis, good or bad, right? Because it's a time that you really see the company's superpower, right? Like, what is that company's superpower? How are they responding in this moment? So the first thing I do is I assess the situation, right? Like, what do we need to do immediately? Who needs to be in the know? And what people do we need at the table? So for Pinterest, for instance, let's say there's an outage, right? Like, who do I need to contact? Who do I need to have in the room? What are we telling consumers? What are we telling our employees? What are we telling our advertisers? So I'm thinking about, are there different messages? Is it the same message? I'm working really closely with our executive team to say, here's my recommendation. Are there recommendations from people who may be experts? So like the product team, is there something that you would like me to say specifically? And so we kind of work together really quickly. And I think speed is really important. In moments that people don't know what's happening, you have to be able to educate the consumer and their employees on what's going on, because that's the biggest gap sometimes I see with companies is they wait too long to say something, they wait too long to do something. So how quickly can we act? What's the timeline? And who needs to sign off, right? So sometimes it's me, but sometimes it may be our CEO. So just in terms of gathering the right people, having a strategy, understanding how long this crisis may last, but also like what's most important for us to get out there. And sometimes it's communicating to our partners, sometimes it's communicating to our advertisers, but who is that audience that we need to reach in that moment? And so, yeah, like a lot of times we would get in a room, huddle together, these are the things, and then we're coming out moving fast. And I always think that the faster you move, but you have to be thoughtful and also deliberate. But how do you combine thoughtful and deliberate to action?
Do you consider yourself to be ambitious? And the reason I ask that question is because I'm moreover interested in what's next for you.
Yeah.
You think about it, right, in the sense of what all you've done.
Yeah.
Right. You're already, again, the chief communications officer, and a lot of people might not know that's like top 1% of a company, generally speaking, right?
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super ambitious. I think about this all the time. I love to strategize. Everyone around me says I'm the expert strategist because I always have a plan. And part of my career path has been what I wanted to learn. So when I was in politics, you know, I learned there's a wealth of knowledge in Washington. There's so many lobbyists and folks that work on the Hill, and they're endless amounts of knowledge that you can learn. So I leaned in there when I was in DC. I wanted to learn business, so that's why I got into corporate America. And so in each of my roles, I've tried to think about, you know, not only what is the message, but like spending time with Taylor, who's leading product, or, you know, whoever, and just understanding like what drives you, what is important. And I think that really has helped me to frame the message on a communication standpoint. I want to lead a company one day. And I think that is something I've always been interested in, but part of my journey is really learning all facets of business and understanding the different components of technology and commerce and retail. Because I really think to be a good leader, you have to really understand the business and how the business works before you can run it. So part of my journey has been really learning business. I love communications, and that's a critical part of being a CEO, is communicating to your employees, communicating to your partners, communicating to the company. So I think I don't think that's the next step, but it's probably my long-term trajectory.
Well, I look at you, and this question comes to mind. A lot of younger women might be watching this, or just women in general, and they see you and they see an attractive lady who's done a lot, who's been very successful. Mm-hmm. Do you have any insecurities?
Absolutely. I don't think you ever grow out of having insecurities. I speak a lot on camera, in front of the company. And, you know, you always want to say the right thing. You're the chief communications officer, so you always have to have something to say. And, you know, I think one of my insecurities is I overthink. Sometimes instead of just like going in there and just being me, I overthink things because I'm a planner, I'm type A. And, you know, I always am worried about, you know, how I come off to my peers and my employees. I'm a very sensitive person, and I want to make sure that I'm in tune with my environment and what's happening. So I never want to be tone deaf. So I'm constantly evaluating, am I timely? Am I in the moment? And I have a bad habit of multitasking. So I'm really, really working on that. Because as a comms person, you got a Slack message coming, a text, and, you know, someone's calling you. So how do I stop multitasking and really be present and be in the moment? It's something I'm definitely working on.
What has been one of your lower moments throughout this journey?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious as to how you turn that moment, or how you even just picked yourself up from that moment.
I think what's really important is your gut instinct. And so I had a job at one point, and there were all these like red flags, right? Like before I took the job, like the leader, you know, it wasn't the right time. My mom was like, I don't know. And I still took that job. And I think, you know, I'm a committer, right? So when I take a job, I commit to it. I think for me, I like to be in a job for a year before I move on, because I think there's always something to learn in a journey. But just following your instincts, your gut. Like sometimes people have great intuition, sometimes they don't. But I think for me, it was, you know, kind of understanding like what made me take this job. What were those things that led up to it, and how do I move through it and get something out of it, right? I think once you realize you've made a mistake, how do you correct that mistake? And sometimes that's staying at a job, sometimes that's leaving within, you know, a couple months. Like I think that's different for everybody, but for me, I'm a committer, so I'm like, what can I learn? What value can I add? And how do I, you know, pull myself out of this, knowing that I may not have made the best decision in the moment, but how do I make the best out of it? And so how do I contribute? How do I, you know, better understand this organization and what's next? So I think, you know, everyone has those moments where you doubt yourself, and sometimes you have to let that emotion out. And I really believe in fully expressing my emotions. I'm sensitive, I cry, right? I laugh, right? I have a good time. And I think that's what life is about, is really just embracing those moments, whether they're a setback or, you know, a comeback even, because these moments are fleeting. And so just as much as you can embrace those, I think is probably the best strategy.
Well, I'm here to let you know I'm sensitive too.
We can have a good cry after this.
I am sensitive too. Man, I shouldn't have said that, because now I've lost my train of thought. But no, okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about Jackson.
Okay.
Right? Our home city.
Love Jackson.
Right. Where do you see Jackson going from here?
Yeah, I love that question, because when I came back, you know I have a lot of friends who've been in the city who've left and returned, and who've left and not returned. And so one of the advantages that I think right now for me is being able to kind of work in a dual location. And I want to see Jackson flourish. I want to see Jackson grow. And I remember I was having this conversation with the mayor, and he was like, why don't you join the redevelopment board? And so that's allowed me to kind of have an inside scoop, if you will, as we would say in press, to what's happening in the city. And I think economic development is so big. You know, you've got the tech district that's coming along. You've got all these new businesses that are popping up. And I think that we really have to support those new businesses, support that economic development. I really want to see the city flourish. I think there are endless opportunities for us to bring in commerce, for us to think about retail, for us to think about technology differently, and to talk to some of these companies that are exploring opportunities in other areas. Healthcare is a big one. I mean, we have a lot of hospitals here and we have a lot of sick people here. So how do we think about revolutionizing ourselves as that mecca for technology and business and medicine? And so I see so much opportunity here. I wouldn't be on the development board if I didn't, but we really have to come together and continue to double down on the strategy for growth here, because that is so innately important, and it's the catalyst for economic development and growth in the city.
What are some things you'd like to see the city do, or what are some pain points you think the city has to work through? That's the better question. Let's go with the latter.
The interesting thing is it feels a little bit new to some people, but it's an older city. And so we have some real critical infrastructure problems that didn't develop overnight. And I think sometimes people look at different administrations and obviously point the finger, and everybody has their equal part, but how do we fix the infrastructure? That is huge, because that's our roads, that's our bridges, that's the ability to allow commerce in and out of the state. So I think if we can really focus on building out the infrastructure, working in these public-private partnerships to get the funding that will allow us to rebuild our infrastructure, that will make us more attractive to other companies, other organizations that will come in and help to build the city. I see a real opportunity, like I said, in medicine and technology. There's so many budding industries that are happening. There's so many entrepreneurs here, right? Like so many entrepreneurs. How do we cradle that ingenuity and bring that innovation here in a way that not only services the city, but services the city and surrounding areas, that makes us that kind of, mecca for innovation, technology, medicine. And so that's one thing I'm working to push. And I think there are a lot of people who are on board with that, but I'd really like to see us flourish in those areas.
Gotcha. Well, and I think that's a very good way to put it. When you, here we go.
Oh wow!
Man. Seared salmon there, served over with cheese grits. Got you some blackened shrimp over the top. Then the garlic chili sauce.
This looks good.
Some just sweet potatoes.
All right.
And then these are Brussels sprouts. I've got that same garlic chili sauce. They are great.
Oh wow!
Wow, this is amazing.
Can I get y'all anything else right now?
Well, I think I'm good.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Y'all enjoy it, all right?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have a spread here.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question and cheat a little bit, so I'll eat my gift. What can I say? Perks of being the host, right?
You do get to own it.
Perks of being the host. Let me ask you this. I'm just curious to learn a little more about you, right? And then we'll come back to Jackson. Actually, I'm gonna ask this first. What are some restaurants you like in the city? Some of your favorites?
Oh man, well I can't not say I love Saltine, so obviously we're here.
Clearly.
I love Char. I'm a big fan of Char. I'm a big fan of the new pizza and daiquiri place down on Capitol Street. If you haven't tried it, the pizza and daiquiris are amazing. I love Ely's. I think they have a really great steak.
I think you mentioned Ely's.
I know.
You mentioned that one.
I know, but those are I would say those are my quick go-tos. And Bravo. Love Bravo. Yeah, just with that little Italian kick. Oh, and I can't forget Mentorship. Yeah. Thank you.
Enjoy, friends.
Thank you. But yeah, we like to eat. Yeah.
I want to know, in an attempt to just learn more about you, what are some of your vices?
My vices. I'm a workaholic. That is number one for me. And I know that people don't always think of that as a vice, but as we talked about, I'm working on boundaries, and so I love to work. But I also know that there are other things that are important in life other than work. I like to shop. Shopping is my thing. It's my weak spot, I would say, because there's just endless amounts of merchandise. There, you always are thinking about home improvement, or in a communications role, you're like, what makes me feel good, and so. Love to shop, but I love to buy things for other people too. It's not just me.
Okay. Are you high maintenance? You could tell. Yeah, we won't.
Probably a little bit.
High maintenance in a good way, maybe. I give you a little bit. I give you a little bit of
because I may like
grace
I spend
there.
money, but I also spend money on other people. So I would say that I'm a good friend to have.
Good. A good friend to have. I'll make sure I befriend you. Oh man. Well, get you have some food. You know, I would love to get your thoughts on it while we continue the conversation.
I'm a big fan of Brussels sprouts.
It was a while before I became a fan.
Same. As a kid, I was like, absolutely not. But
I hated them.
Now that I'm a little bit older, you know, just shy of 16.
Just shy.
Just shy of 16.
I was thinking roughly around like 19 was what I was kind of getting.
You know, I guess, you know, I mean,
give or take a couple, years.
You know, I was a fast learner, you know.
I like the sense of humor though. I like the sense of humor. Man, I think it's so cool to sit here with you as a black woman, and you're, you know, CEO of a huge company. I think that's very inspiring. And I guess I just would love to know, and not even for me, just for people watching, right? What's some advice, just general advice you would give them for, you know, what they could do next, or how they could kind of improve their circumstances, or even just someone looking at you and say, hey, you know, I thought that LeMia interview was great. Excuse me, doctor. I got to keep messing with you about that. I thought that interview was great, and I want to kind of try and figure that out. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I have tons of advice. But I would say some of the things that are most important to me is like your intuition and your gut are always going to lead you in the right direction. So trust that. So if something doesn't feel right, if something isn't coming off right, like trust that instinct, right? And also trust it when it's a good thing, right? When you're getting good vibes, like we're having a great meal, we've had a great conversation, that's also something to trust. I think the other thing is a lot of times people ask me for career advice, and you know, I think we're taught to dream in, you know, decades almost. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? My job didn't exist when I was in school, right? If you really think about that, like Pinterest didn't exist, right? So, you know what I mean? And so I really want to push people to dream big, but also what is it that you really need to be successful? So people come to me all the time and ask for career advice, and I say, like, you know, what is it that you want to do? And I think being able to articulate to someone, like, I want a job in politics. I want to be a doctor. I want to understand Portuguese, right? Like, just whatever that is, be direct as you can, because sometimes when you're in these circles and you have like a moment to talk to someone, that moment can be life-changing. When I was in DC, I would see members of Congress all the time, and I would be thinking, you know, like, who do I want to work for? What do I want to do next? How do I expand my network? So I would always have an elevator story of, look, I'm LeMia, here's what I'm here to do. I'd love to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. Here's how I would like for you to help me. And so I think a lot of times, you know, people in my position and across the globe even want to help folks. They want to be mentors, but sometimes you don't know how to help someone. If they're like, I want to be in communications, well, what part? Like, what do you want to do? So as detailed as you can be about what that goal is that you're trying to reach, no matter what it is, I think you have a better chance of success if you're able to really articulate clearly what you're looking for, and be open to the fact that life is not a linear path. We talked about, I wanted to be a physician, right? So like when I was in school, I was like, I'm gonna do this communications thing, but I'm gonna be a doctor one day. And that changed. And you know, I had left and right and up and down. And I think sometimes people only think about moving up the ladder as a vertical exercise, but I've learned so much from those horizontal experiences when I took a lateral move. I've taken steps back, I've taken steps forward. And I think embracing the learning from all of those moments is really important, because now I can pull from that collective knowledge and think about my diversity of thought and really be strategic about the things that I've seen in my life. So, you know, I would say to wrap that up is, you know, 1, go with your gut. 2, be really strategic, ask for what you want. And 3rd, be open to a different path, to a different horizon, to you know, horizontal opportunities, and not just look for the vertical ones. Because, you know, I tell some people, you know, people move up the ladder really fast and they can fall really fast. And it's good to see people in action. One of the things that I have taken into my role as a manager and a leader is, what are those things that I really loved about managers who managed me in the past? What are those things that I really hated, right? And taking those into account when I'm managing my team. And you're working at it every day. Like, I know I'm not perfect, and I'll never be perfect, but I think striving to be a good leader, a good manager, a good person is really important. So I would leave that as my advice in terms of, you know, getting to the next step or getting to the next level is to really be intentional.
What does success look like to you?
Oh man, you know, no one's ever asked me that question.
Really?
No. You know, success looks like, you know, being able to take care of myself and my family, being a good person, but I think adding something, helping someone. You know, I'm very philanthropic. I feel strongly about education. I support my local institutions, Tougaloo, Jackson State. And part of the reason I got my PhD was I wanted to be a professor. So when I was in Arkansas, I was a adjunct professor at the University of Arkansas. And so I really learned a lot from those professors who had been in the field, right? Who had done it before. And like, no one's gonna get rich being a professor, right? But being able to give back to students who want to be, I want them to be, you know, more than me, right? Like I want them to be more advanced than me. So really being able to give back in a way that's meaningful, especially to this area, to the place that birthed me, and just, you know, being self-sufficient. I think that's what success looks like for me.
Gotcha. We were talking off camera, and I want to get you to tell everybody about that story you told me about. I'm not gonna bring that up. I had to see you. I told you I was gonna ask you. I told you I was gonna ask you that. But seriously though, what is, because you got it so put together, you articulate yourself so well. What's the most out of character thing LeMia has done? You look back on it, you be like, I cannot believe I did that. You know, maybe somebody didn't have your food prepared properly, or maybe, you know, what?
So I'm deathly afraid of heights. Deathly afraid of heights. Like even on an airplane, like, and so I remember I was flying home once and I was with like some peers and we had the most turbulence ever. And I mean, I'm not a screamer and I'm not a crier, but I was literally like, please, Lord, let us make it. Please, Lord, let us make it. Please, let us make it. I was like freaking, I was literally having a panic attack. And so I'm totally calm under pressure normally and like very composed. But like that moment, I was like, we're gonna die. Like it's happening. And then the plane turned around. Yes, we actually flew back to where we started. So I was like, yes. And then they come on the speaker system and say, everyone be calm. Emergency vehicles are gonna meet us when we land. And I was like, I just wanna get off. I just wanna get off. Is there a parachute? Oh my gosh. So I will say the learning from that is always watch the flight attendants. If something is wrong, they will freak out because they've seen it all, they've done it all. If they look worried, you should be worried.
And it's funny, I'll give you a chance to eat. It's funny you talk about that story. I am not afraid of heights. But
really?
No, I'm not afraid of heights.
Oh no.
I'm more afraid of frogs than heights, if we're just being honest. I'm terrified of frogs.
Really?
I don't do pranks, right? Like, I tell all my friends, no, do not prank. I will unfriend you. Like
We just became friends, so I guess I'm no pranking.
I will unfriend you if you prank me.
I'm a big pranker. I like a prank.
Surprises. Don't like it.
I'm a good pranker.
Don't do it. But we were on a plane, and I mean, it all started so well. I mean, it just like
as most stories start, right?
Any other day, we take off, we're up in the air, and we hit like this real loud bang, right? I mean, it was. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was flying from Atlanta to Dallas, and it was the loudest bang. And the next thing I know, maybe like 3 minutes later, the plane literally, I don't know how far of a drop it was, but we literally just like free fell, like just dropped down, like a straight drop down. And when I tell you, I have never screamed that loud. The flight attendant was
sounds like me.
Girl, I was yelling. I'm like,
oh yeah, it's scary. Well, pro tip, when you hit bumps like that, it's just like when you hit a pothole. So like, think about them as air potholes. And so know that like, if you're going over these kind of like big moments, it's just like a pothole. So that's how a pilot explained it to me. And that's what.
How does that make you feel? A pothole? Were you 30,000 feet in the air and you want to think about it like a pothole?
When I think about it like a pothole, it just makes so much more sense.
Okay.
The two times you should be worried, I've learned, are takeoff and landing. That's when the worst things happen to planes. If you notice, like a lot of planes are, this is getting really morbid here, but when they typically don't take off successfully, it's within that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes. So
Well, it's good to know. I did not know that. so that's good to know.
I'm not a pilot. This is not my area specialty.
That's good to know.
Thank you.
As I get us closer to wrapping this up, right? I'm just curious. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy means a lot of things. I come from a legacy of educators. So my grandmother was an educator. My mom was an educator. She was a counselor here in the Jackson Public School District. And I remember saying, I'll never be in education. I'm never going down that path. And here I am with a PhD and being an academic. Legacy means, sustainability, resilience, right? It means you've been through something and you're still standing. And so when I think about legacy, what I want my legacy to be, I want people to remember, like, she had ups and downs, like, but she fought through it. And she left something behind that's meaningful to other people. And I don't think you have to leave, millions of dollars behind or have this huge, foundation or legacy. But I think if you can only touch a few people, do you have a really meaningful impact on those people and their lives? And what does that mean for me is definitely being able to say, I did something for someone else, that I opened a door that otherwise wouldn't have been open for someone. And I keep saying this, but I really do just want to be a good person. I think there's a lot to being a good person, especially in this kind of day and age where people are, really obsessed with other things. Like, just being a good person, being a good listener, and helping people along the way means a lot to me. And again, like, that measure of success in terms of, being able to take care of myself and my family and leaving something behind. So just having, like, a good name and being a good person is really important to me.
What achievement have you been most proud of?
My PhD. I know that sounds crazy, but
not at all.
Going through undergrad, you're just in the world. You have a goal, but there's a lot of help from your parents, right? And my parents supported me through all my endeavors. But the moment that I was Dr. LeMia was that magical moment for me, because I'd worked so hard. There were so many nights of tears and, like, I don't want to do this, I'm gonna quit. The dissertation process is like a whole hazing thing.
I've heard.
Oh yeah, it's grueling. But there's just a sense of accomplishment that you get because you're literally publishing research that now goes out into the world, right? So I can say that I have done research, I have looked into an issue, and I'm an expert in this field. And I think that's a real distinguisher. I mean, I think it's between 2 and 3% of people in the world have doctoral degrees. And so being able to say that I did this, with the help and support of my family and my community, obviously, but it was one of the few accomplishments that you really feel like you had your hands on, and that was tough and hard. And probably one of the few times in my life that I did something that I really was like, I don't know if I can do this. I might quit. Like, really going through those moments. And it's important to have a support system of people you can call that have done it before that can say, hey, you're almost there, right? You had some setbacks. The dissertation is tough. You can't get your research together, but I would say that's the moment I'm most proud of.
Got you. Who inspires LeMia?
So many people inspire me. My parents inspire me. My husband inspires me. My team is insane. They're the best communications team on the planet, seriously. I am always so into, they always have these new ideas and they're creative and innovative. And, I consider myself very type A. So I'm very like by the book. So they like bring these ideas to me and like I love to help them execute and bring life to them. I'm always obsessed with like women in leadership. Daria Tresner, who's at Peloton, is a mentor, and she is amazing. Barb Messing, who used to be the CMO for Walmart, is now leading communications, marketing, and HR at Roblox. So those are two women who are, one I know really well, and one who I've met just once or twice, but who I see in the world, and I'm like, oh, they're amazing, and they're strategic, and they are, in my network of people to be helpful. And I would say our CEO is really inspiring. He's just ahead of his time, which is why I'm doing the job I'm doing, because I get to learn from him every day.
I got you. That's nice to hear, and it's always good to to love and admire and, well, be inspired by the people you work with and for?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think people don't realize how much time they spend at work. You're at work usually like for a minimum 8 hours a day. And if you're not getting energy, if you're not feeling supported, Carla Harris is another person that she was the first Black woman on Wall Street. And she says, go where you can grow. If you don't feel like you're growing and that people aren't, supporting you and nurturing you, then you're not in the right place. And sometimes that happens for 6 months, sometimes it's 6 years. But I really think that's really important. And so being in an environment that is conducive to you and making you a whole person, but also pushing you. And so I think sometimes people think work should be good all the time. Like when you're growing, it's painful. It's not fun, My worst moments are those moments of growth where I really pushed myself. And like my dissertation was one of them where it was not fun. And I think for people who try to achieve, they're used to stuff being easy, right? And so when you have those moments of adversity, like how do you really push through them?
What would you say to your 10-year-old self?
Man. Oh my God, so much. I would say so much. I would say, don't worry so much about what other people think of you. Everyone else's opinion of you is none of your business. I would say, continue to be inquisitive, continue to push. Don't be afraid. There are no limitations. Because like I said, when I was 10, my job didn't exist. So continuing to push myself to expound and just really continue to tell myself to focus on what's around me, being inquisitive, asking questions, and just that it's gonna be okay. Like all those moments that I think we as people have doubt and are not sure of ourselves and don't know if it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out. And so just reaffirming myself of that, because there's so many times where I was afraid and I didn't know what was next, and just knowing that I was gonna be okay. So I would really wanna tell myself you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be good, but you're gonna have to work really hard to get where you wanna go.
You think, and I promise I'm gonna let you go.
Oh.
But do you think
you're my new BFF?
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that. I like the wittiness. No, seriously though. But do you think your journey, right, has been? Do you think your journey has been colored, right, as a Black woman, in a sense that, hey, there were certain trials, there were certain things I had to do, there were certain hurdles that I had to do, so people that are coming behind me won't have to. Yeah. Do you feel like your journey has contained some of that?
Yeah, I think sometimes people think it's all hard work. There are some times where I was just lucky to be in the room, right? Lucky to be in the place, lucky to walk into the door, right? I consider luck to be blessed, right? Like I was blessed with certain opportunities, but absolutely. I think a lot of times I was, the youngest, right? I was a Black female and people underestimated me. And so, I'm never gonna be the type to just go off on somebody. That's just not my style. But I always wanna walk away with like, and I know, right? And so having those moments where you say, well, actually I was looking at this research and I saw blah, blah, blah. Or, when I was at this job, being able to say that so that now like when they see another person that looks like me, they're not gonna try them because they know.
I was just gonna say, have you ever had to be in a meeting and just have to like get somebody together? Like, I don't know who you are talking to, right? My credentials, you do realize I'm a doctor,
Yeah, sometimes you have to. I don't think people should be afraid to talk about their accomplishments and what they've done because you worked hard for those degrees. You worked hard to get that experience. And so sometimes you do have to level with people and say, look, I've been doing this for 20 years or 15 years or blah, 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 or I've studied this in detail, right? Like I have a PhD in education. So like I've studied a lot of research, right? And so being able to tout that and to say like, hey, I'm actually an expert here. So you know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes as women, we're afraid to do that. And I was afraid to do that for a long time, but I learned that like I had to speak up. And if I was in a room, I was in a room for a reason. Like it wasn't a mistake that I was there. Like they want to hear my voice and they want to hear my experience. And I think, especially as Black women and women in general, we feel like we're privileged to just be in the room, right? But it's not just about being in the room, it's about contributing to that room so that when people are in there and they're like, we're missing a voice. Where's LeMia, right? Like where's Taylor, right? So how do you make sure that you make an impact whether you say 800 words or 8 words, but that your presence is known, and that when those people are in that room again, they are looking to hear from you and understanding your expertise. And it's not always just adding some learning, but it may be a question that you ask that pushes someone or that makes the organization think differently. And so I try to say that because I think some people always are like, how do I add value? But value is not always in what you know, but it's the questions that you ask as well.
Gotcha. Well, the last question I have for you is very, very simple question, but I like to ask people this. I think you are a good candidate for it. Oh, what do we have here?
All right, so we have banoffee right here.
Okay.
We have a key lime tart and the blonde brown.
All right.
What was this again?
Banoffee pie.
Oh,
okay.
What is that?
So it has coffee, graham cracker at the bottom. We have whipped cream and caramel. Kind of like banana pudding.
Oh, cool. It kind of looks like banana pudding, so thank you.
Well, before I ask you this question, I'm gonna try this real quick because it looks good with my. I'm like, okay, this looks good. I'm like, let me try this.
I'm gonna try the key lime.
You gonna try the key lime? Okay. You tell me what you think. I'll tell you what I think. And I might try the key lime just because.
Okay.
Right. I'm not a key lime guy, but I'm gonna try this first.
I'm a big key lime person. This is the first time I ever had key lime pie was in Key West. Apparently, that's where key lime pie originated from. So they were like, you have to have a key lime pie, and I'd never had key lime pie before then, and ever since then I've been a believer in key lime, and this is a good one.
I've never been to Key West, but I've been to Jackson, Mississippi, and you got to try this, whatever that is.
All right, I'm gonna trust you.
I'm telling you, excuse me. I'm so excited. I'm over here eating with my mouth open. I'm like, man, this is good. It's good, right? It's good, right? And what did you had this key lime? All right.
This was good.
I'm still gonna ask you that question, so don't get lazy on me.
I haven't deviated you.
Now, what can you give me a little insight? And I know you don't work here, obviously, but what exactly is key lime pie? Do you know? Don't worry, I'll try it.
Sure.
I'll try
I
it.
think it's lime and pie.
Here goes nothing.
And graham cracker crust.
I wish I was at my grandma's house. I like to sniff stuff
You know
sometimes before I eat it.
I'll have to go on Pinterest and find the recipe.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see. I'm gonna go on and create a board for desserts then.
Come on.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Let me try this. Okay.
That's your first time having key lime?
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take a minute to let it grow.
Yeah.
On you. Sometimes you have to grow.
I think as a chief communications officer, I think your palate is a little more elevated than mine, you know. So it's gonna take me a little while to get used to it.
You ever had a backhanded compliment?
You saw what I did. Yeah, so the dessert, amazing. But that question, right? The question I wanted to ask you, I like to ask people this question just to get your opinion, your take on it, right? Simple question, passion or skill, right? A lot of people fall into, and this is just my personal opinion, a lot of people fall into this trap of, oh, I'm not passionate about this, or, you know, I need to be more passionate about that, right? And I read a book years and years ago where this guy made the argument that follow your passion is bad advice, right? And he says it's more important to develop a skill. So my question to LeMia is, do you feel like it's more important to be passionate about something, or do you feel like it's more important to develop a skill towards something?
That's a good question. It's actually interesting that you say that, because I kind of feel like my life has modeled passion and skill. So when I was, you know, coming along in the political world, there's so much you can be skilled at, right? You can be a great policy person, you can be a great comms person, you can be a great health policy person, you can be a great commerce policy person. But the one thing that people wanted on Capitol Hill was subject matter expertise. And so since I was getting my master's in public health, I decided to go into health, and I loved health. I loved learning about healthcare and helping people. And so when I think about passion and skill, I think the two have to marry at some point. I think being a generalist is great. I believe in the beginning of your career, it's really good to be really good at one thing, right? Be really good at that one thing so that that's your skill that you market that separates you from everybody else. And as you grow and learn, you become good at other things. But I really think that for me, having that kind of marriage of communications and policy, health policy, was my key unlock to getting into many offices. And especially at the time when healthcare was such a buzz in Washington, the Affordable Care Act was going through. And so me and subject matter expertise in that subject matter, I guess, for lack of better words, was really helpful to me. But I was also passionate about healthcare. I don't think you can do a job without having any passion for it. Like, I was a cashier when I was growing up at Brookshire's grocery store.
No, you were not.
Yes. And I was the freaking cashier of the year. Oh my God, there's a bee.
Is it a bee?
Yes.
You sure it's a bee?
Yes.
I
don't know where it is.
I know you're definitely terrified of it. So let me be the superhero here and take care of things.
I think it's gone.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Good. So you were cashier. I was trying to step in for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so it was fun. It was a fun job. I love to like meet people because part of that job is so external, right? You're scanning groceries, but like you're being timed on how fast you get those groceries across. So I do think you have to like the job. You have to be passionate about it. Did I want to do that forever? Probably not, but it was fun in the moment. But it actually helped me understand the grocery business. It helped me understand retail. It helped me understand what customers and consumers are looking for and how their needs change, right? Whether they're young or old. And that's something I apply now to my job at Pinterest, right? Thinking about customers and demographics. So I think you have to have skill, but you have to be passionate about what it is that you do, because that's what's going to get you through those nights and those days when it's impossible, or you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's what gets you up in the morning.
So you never really, I think, man, I got a question. Because you talk about being a cashier. Oh, here we go.
Oh.
There you go. Right as I was about to ask you another question. Whoa.
Wow.
All right, let me move this
you
forward.
gotta tell us what we're having here.
We have some Sarah s'mores cake, piece of chocolate cake, marshmallow, filet good to it, a little graham cracker crust, 2 glasses of my delicious Riesling.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you can take that, but just make sure you take that over to the table right off the side. Okay. All right. No, I'm joking with you, man. Well, let's try this real quick. Well, and actually, before we try that, let me give you something. This is
shirt.
You know it. This is a token of our appreciation, right? For you taking the time out of your busy day. We know it's a busy day, right? And for you to sit here and have a conversation with us over this great food, we truly appreciate that. And it's our token of appreciation to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Problem.
I finally got my shirt.
You Teflon now. You are officially a part of the Dirty Napkins crew.
Yes, I'm official.
Yeah, well, let's try this. Let's try this cake real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I didn't listen to everything he said. He said something about chocolate and graham cracker, right?
S'mores, like a s'mores cake.
Do you like s'mores?
I mean,
you could go either way.
Them on my own.
You can go either way. Huh?
They're in front of me,
Let's try.
I often don't have graham crackers, marshmallows, and chocolate laying around either, so there's that part.
Fair enough. And it's a big cake
It's
a big cake too. Let's try. Good.
Yeah, especially for something I don't eat very often.
Oh, this is good chocolate.
Yeah.
That is good. Well, let me take this last bite and then I'm gonna get us out of here.
Well, cheers.
All right, guys, at Saltine, life always gets sweeter.
Goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, you can't go wrong here for dessert.
Goodness.
If you're in the mood for a progressive dinner, we have all the desserts you need to end a great night.
This is so cute.
Okay, because this is our signature
gotta
dessert.
catch that.
This is our Saltine cinnamon roll cheesecake.
Oh.
And like me, I don't like to settle. And LeMia, you look like a woman that never settles for anything in life. So I like to do as much as I can. And this gives me a cinnamon roll and cheesecake at the same time for bites of yummy. And the best part about this is when I first tried it, I thought it was something I never did eat.
Yeah.
The worlds didn't collide because it's a brown sugar cheesecake, not like your New York style cheesecake.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It melts in your mouth. It's even good with Netflix and chill.
Okay.
But the best part about it is the icing and the bourbon caramel on top. Everything we make here at Saltine is just for you, and we make it in-house. We call ourselves a fresh kitchen and a clean kitchen. So we don't have a big walk-in freezer. We don't have a deep freezer. Nothing is frozen or sitting in a can waiting for you to eat it. We prepare everything fresh for you. So our pastry chef does a great job with our s'mores cake, our cinnamon roll cheesecake, the banoffee. Did you guys taste that little caramelized pudding?
Yeah, I think so.
It's like if God was making banana pudding, he'd make it just like this, okay? With extra graham crackers, little coffee grains, just for you to enjoy yourself. You can't go wrong with a classic key lime. Are you guys drinking that Riesling?
Well, I'm about to take a
sip
swig.
of that while you're engulfing yourself in these beautiful desserts. And those romantic, sweet, and a little bit of that spicy cayenne, which is actually in that chocolate cake, will explode in your mouth. Give your taste buds a little giddy up and get, okay? Yes. And so guys, we also are working on a red velvet we have coming soon. The Blondie Brownie, you're the first to try that. Oh, we're not even featuring that
Which
yet.
one is this, the real good one?
Yes, oh, the real good one you say.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's new to us. And we're doing that Blondie Brownie. But I love Blondie Brownie. It can come with nuts on top, caramelized pecans, but we do cookies and little chocolate chips in there just to add a little kick. Guys, I literally have put on 30 pounds just by working here because these desserts are amazing. They are. But when you're talking with friends, when you're enjoying life, you need just a little bit of sweetness in there. And Saltine does provide that for all of our guests, but especially the both of you, okay? Enjoy. Let us know how those things taste to you guys. And I'm pretty sure your taste buds are going to be mad because you didn't introduce them to this sooner, okay?
Well, you wanted me over at brown sugar. I love me some brown sugar.
Okay.
You feel me?
Well, you guys, I'm just saying you can't go wrong here when it comes to cocktails, when it comes to food, and when it comes to dessert. Most of our guests think that we're doing something special, but you bring the good company, and we try to match that with the food and the ambiance. And here we are, and I hope we're meeting your standards. Have a great evening.
You too. It's been great experience. Well, before we dig into this again, I just want to tell you personally, thank you for the time, and it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Now let's dig into the 15th dessert we got.
We'll have to work out after this. Let's talk about needing to add that.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation here at Saltine's Oyster Bar with Dr. LeMia Jenkins Thompson. Special thanks to our sponsors. Your contributions allow us to spread awareness to local communities around the world. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Dirty Napkins. Until next time, it's your host, Jay Taylor.